I found it really fascinating when researching for the exhibition we were putting on as part of this project to look into CC41 and clothing rationing, because it was something I hadn't really heard of or thought about before when discussing rationing. I mean, the standard thing you learn at school is, didn't have much sugar and all of the kind of food rationing that is majorly discussed. Obviously there was also fuel rationing, but I think what was really interesting about clothing rationing is that it really affected style and fashion. It affected the type of fabric that was used. It affected the choices in terms of how much fabric was used, so which changed the kind of style of skirts, the style of jackets, and it limited the number of buttons. So all of this stuff had such an enduring effect on people's lives, but also an enduring effect after the war when clothing rationing continued into the 50s. But also the ethics of the choices that they were making to make clothes that were really durable is an interesting choice nowadays when you have kind of very throwaway fashion, to kind of learn from those choices of how can we be more sustainable because resources are so tight. So that's a really kind of inspiring thing about how clever and genius we are when we have to work out how to make things with less and make things last longer. And I think it's something we could probably learn from. So it's just a really fascinating thing to research and find out more about. I found the One Story Many Voices story that ourselves at the Museum of Cornish Life and Bodmin Keep put together for the kind of interactive exhibition really fascinating as a perspective, a new perspective for a Cornish person, learning about something that I had no idea we had involvement in the war. So learning about the refugees from France coming over into the harbour and ending up being looked after by locals, and how that impacted the lives of those in this area was really amazing to kind of learn that, because obviously I'd heard about evacuee children, but you don't necessarily think about how we played a role internationally. And also, of course, they would come here. It's reachable by sea. They would get on their boats and try and get out. And I think it's so obvious, but I'd never thought about it. So it was really fascinating to hear that story told in such a beautiful way, to hear it in Cornish, which was really strong, because it's just a story that hasn't really been shared enough and people don't know.
I enjoyed being in this project as I thought it was a really good way of expanding history in the Second World War. So it was just fantastic to get hands-on and to be part of this. It's really important and I feel quite proud of it.
We are surrounded by some amazing bunting that was made as part of the project that we've been doing with Imperial War Museums. And we started in the summer of 2021. And because of everything that's been going on, we decided that we wanted to engage with the community, but they were a little bit hesitant. So we made some packs up and sent them out with some instructions.
We did indeed.
We did indeed. And we were inspired by something that we'd found in our collection as part of the project, which was a list of the emblems that the Home Guard in Cornwall had created so they could identify one another. But they were little codes. So, for example, if you were part of the Home Guard in Helston, you had a lizard and you had it on your arm. So we liked this idea. We did. And we thought, so we're going to make bunting, but we're also going to say to people that if they want to create their own code or their own emblem in the way that the Home Guard had done, they could do that and put it onto their bunting and send it back to us. And amazingly, lots and lots and lots of people did, of all ages. And then Catherine and another of our volunteers spent a long time putting it all together. And now it looks like this. It has. So, for example, just to give you an idea of what people did, for example, this one's got a little dog on it. That's one of our volunteers' dogs, so we know who that one is. Someone else is a bat.
This is a family, yes, the Jamesons family. And then I love this one. That's an ice cream cone, which obviously for this part of Cornwall is a very important emblem. We gave a mixture of patterned and plain fabric in our packs so they could use the plain, but we said it could be drawn on, it didn't have to be embroidered upon.
No. And people did lots of different things, and also for some people they found that this was a way to connect the past with the present and to tell their story and to share some memories with all of us. And we've got a beautiful example here from somebody who sent in, who made these photographs and then printed them onto the bunting to commemorate
Both their dads.
both of their fathers who'd fought in World War II. And somebody else also put emblems on. So it was a really lovely project and a really good way for people to connect their stories and their past with the future. And this bunting will continue to tell that story because we do bring it out for special occasions, for example, for the Jubilee, and then also, of course, for the passing of Queen Elizabeth. So this will go on to tell the story into the future. So we were very fortunate to have this funding from Imperial War Museum, and one of the things we wanted to do was to refresh our loan boxes and the handling box that we use for the schools.
Yes.
Schools workshops are really important. They're a great way for connecting children to history, and we are very keen here at the museum that children are actually able to look at objects and handle objects that are from that time and to have a real experience. And this is something that Catherine has led on for the World War II workshops.
I think World War II is really a very, very important workshop, but to have more things that the children can handle and see, it just makes so much more sense, particularly things like the ration pack. You can tell them as many times as you like, but to actually see the amount of food that was there for the week makes such a difference, I think.
Yeah, it really brings it to life for them. And something else that we've been able to add into these workshops is that we've been able to add in some information that's really relevant to children here in Cornwall that we've discovered through this project. So I am Cornish. I was educated here, obviously, but I didn't learn anything about what had happened to Cornwall in World War II. And through this project, I've been able to discover my own history, and we've been able to then share that with the school children that are here in Cornwall so that they can learn about their own history as well and fit that into the bigger picture. And I think it also helps them to think about what's happening at the moment. I think it does make war seem more real, and I think that will help them to really understand what's happening in the world today, because there is a lot happening and war is still with us.
When we had the opportunity to work with the Imperial War Museum, it was a great chance for us to look through our collection to see what objects we had relating to wartime clothing. And as we looked through our boxes, we found a number of CC41 label clothing. And for those of you that don't know, CC41 stands for civilian clothing, which relates to the clothing rationing that the government, the Board of Trade, brought in 1941. The ration coupons were then issued from 1942, and that was how people acquired their clothes. So it was very interesting to see what objects we had, and I had the opportunity to put those on display so that people had an idea of the clothing of ordinary people at the time.